I am loath to give this much of a platform to leftist ideologies, but when quotes fit, they fit. They just are, and they will serve their purpose. We all remember this shoe banging weirdo. If you're any fan of Cold War history like I am, or if you've followed me for any length of time, you know this weirdo shoe banger from the old Soviet days, Nikita Khrushchev. We could go off on another rabbit hole about the year 1953 and Nikita's gift when he officially handed Crimea over to the Ukraine, because at the time they were one big happy family. And of course, Khrushchev himself was an ethnic Ukrainian. But that is a subject for another time. Let's roll, shall we? You Americans are so gullible. No, you won't accept communism outright, but we'll keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you'll finally wake up and find you already have communism. We won't have to fight you. We'll still weaken your economy until you'll fall like overripe fruit into our hands. Little did he know how correct he was. And in fact, they weren't able to weaken our economy, capitalism being the superior economic model, but we have weakened it on our own volition. Shall we continue? Another from Nikita Khrushchev. President Roosevelt proved that a president could serve for life. Truman proved that anyone could be elected. Eisenhower proved that your country can be run without a president. Bold boast back in the day, but let's take it all into account. Roosevelt proved that a president could serve for life. In fact, his 4 terms were responsible for term limits being amended to the Constitution to where a president could serve no more than 2. Roosevelt himself being a socialist, but again, a rabbit hole for another time. However, one can only serve 2 official terms, leading me to the third point. Let's deal with the second first. Truman proved that anyone could be elected. Trump has certainly reproven that. No matter how you feel about the man, proof positive that anyone can be elected. But speaking to the first and third points together, Roosevelt proved that a president could serve for life. Eisenhower proved that your country can be run without a president. Biden has once again proved that our country can be run without a president, but not completely. Because as we are now finding out in irrefutable fashion, Obama was at the helm. He got an unofficial third term, proving again that a president can serve for life, so long as they don't have to be bothered by things like the electorate and the will of the people. Shall we continue? I can prophesy, said Khrushchev, that your grandchildren in America will live under socialism. Our firm conviction is that sooner or later, capitalism will give way to socialism. Whether you like it or not, history is on our side. We will bury you. We, in our arrogance, thought that with the fall of the Soviet Union that this quote had been proven false. However, there were seeds planted in every major cultural institution during the Soviet era that would not take root for decades. They're playing the long game. It doesn't matter the nation. It doesn't matter the government. It doesn't matter the nation state. The ideology of communism is always playing the long game. It is Luciferian by nature, and we all know that the father of lies is all about the long game. Even if we have read the book, spoiler alert, he loses, and the amount of time we have in this earthly realm, that long game is well underway. And for the longest time, they have been winning. Again, he prophesied that your grandchildren would live under socialism, and their firm conviction was that it would give way to socialism, whether or not, like it or not, history is on our side, we will bury you. That has yet to come to fruition. But as Nixon once said, communism has lost the Cold War, but Americans have yet to win it. Point worth pondering. But the last one I'm going to leave you with Nikita Khrushchev is the altruism of the press is our chief ideological weapon. All authoritarian regimes need control of the press as their chief ideological weapon, but leftism and communism is serve as the mark and the forefront of that truth in practice. Again, they're playing the long game. Who would have thought that we would stand in the precipice? And again, in our arrogance, this is where we shoot ourselves in the foot as conservatives. This is where we shoot ourselves in the foot as Americans. There's a certain amount of arrogance that keeps hamstringing us. When the Soviet Union collapsed, we thought that we had won the ideological war. Nothing could have been further from the truth. As conservatives, we thought that with Trump in office, it was a fait accompli. And again, nothing could have been further from the truth. Witness the New York City mayoral primary. Zoran Mamdani, an avowed, self-declared Muslim communist, a man who refused to condemn the phrase globalize the intifada, a man who has outright advocated the seizing of the means of production, right out of the Marxist playbook. They're trying to tart him up. They're trying to make him friendly for the cameras because, again, that's what the media does. They are the chief ideological weapon. And MSNBC in particular has done a fine job with Mr. Mamdani, but sailing under the radar at the same time. We're talking about a Muslim communist being on the precipice of being the mayor of our largest and arguably most important city. So this fella kind of went under the radar. A fellow by the name of Omar Fateh, Somalian, Muslim, communist, and the Democratic Party just gave him their endorsement over a Democrat, non-Muslim, non-communist incumbent. What does that tell you about the direction of the Democratic Party? It was all a big joke when it was AOC and Bernie. Now it's getting sinister. Now, I would like to believe that the majority of the American electorate isn't ready to go that route yet, but I've been wrong before. Keep in mind, this is Minneapolis, the same Minneapolis, that Minneapolis that gave us Ilhan Omar. Think about the long game and how every one of these things factor into it. The open borders policy, the resettlement policy of bringing all these third world culturally incompatible people and settling them in American cities. They put all the Somalians into this Minneapolis, Minnesota district. That district proceeded to give us Ilhan Omar. And let's not forget that district, look it up. The FBI has listed as the district responsible for more domestic terrorist investigations, arrests, and convictions than any other congressional district in the United States. Let's not forget that Ilhan married her brother and falsified immigration documents to be admitted to this country in the first place, and leaving aside that it's USAID, thank God, recently dismantled, that is responsible for her being here in the first place. But are you starting to understand the long game? Flood that district with Somalis, they give you a Somali Muslim, not declared, but obvious Marxist by her policies, one who never had a kind word to say about the United States, one who openly states that she is Somalian first and America second. How did we allow this to happen? As we went over in the last sermon, the Constitution is not a suicide pact. But they flooded the district. They got the Somalis in the majority. They gave us Ilhan Omar, and now they're about to give us Omar Fateh. Let's not forget that they also gave us these mostly peaceful protests in the wake of a fentanyl addict dying of an overdose with a cop happened to be present on the scene. Call it what it is. He's going to get a new trial, and he's going to walk if there is any justice. But regardless of how you feel about the George Floyd incident, this is the result. And none of this is an accident either. Let's not forget this same year, Antifa spent months, plural, trying to burn down a federal courthouse in Portland. And it's all manifesting over again. Open borders, we're not talking about shifting the voter electorate. That's in the long game as well. But immediately, in the immediate sense, we are flooded with teeming millions of people who are culturally incompatible with the United States, who could not assimilate even if they weren't here to undermine and destroy the United States from within. Who was it that warned us about that? Ah, yeah, that Khrushchev guy. It's almost as if with communism and globalism, the message never changes. But now it's manifesting itself. Again, the Portland ice facility is under attack. And just in the course of the last month, we are seeing coordinated domestic terror attacks, not from the angry, white, radicalized right wing conservatives that we've been told were the political threat for the last 4 years, but against avowed Marxists, against avowed domestic terrorists of the political left. This took place in my own backyard. My pastor was one of those who pronounced the prayer rally for the families of those firefighters and law enforcement officers who were shot and killed. They set a fire to draw in first responders and then assaulted the first responders with high-powered rifles. The official story is that there was only one shooter. Whether I believe that or not remains to be seen, but I can tell you for sure that there was more than one shooter involved in the attack in Alvarado, Texas. 10, in fact. Antifa, left-wing maggot Marxists drew unarmed ICE agents out by fireworks and graffiti on the cars, and when they had gotten out into the open, unarmed, members of that party opened fire with high-powered rifles. This is coordinated. This requires planning. This requires training. This requires coordination. And we have let people into the country. These people here are good old homegrown, white, college-educated leftists, the useful idiots that Stalin used to refer to. But they are the forefront. And the shock troops are going to wind up being those people who those open borders are responsible for. And it is open warfare now. Attacks against ICE agents are up 830% since the raid started. Feel about that how you want, but it is time to choose sides. If you are going to take the sentiment, well, it serves them right, you've chosen your side, and I break no bread with you, my young friend. Thankfully, we have an unapologetic border czar, Tom Homan, and he has been outspoken in no uncertain terms that if you want war, you came to the right place. Now, of course, this plays into the media's accusations of fascism, but you knew we weren't going to get out of here without an Orwell quote. The word fascism has now no meaning except insofar as it signifies something not desirable. And what could be more undesirable for those globalist minions? What could be more undesirable for the people who seek to destroy and undermine the United States and indeed Western civilization from within than someone finally taking a stand? Again, going back to the leftist own ideology, the media are corporations, so it's the concentrations of private power which have an enormous, not total control, but enormous influence over Congress and the White House that's increasingly sharply with sharp concentration of private power and escalating costs of elections and so on. Professor Noam Chomsky, I'll spare you the celebrity grip and grin pic that I have of me and the good professor. But who knows the left better than one of its own celebrities? And he has done phenomenal work. Regardless of his ideology, he's done phenomenal work in media and their conglomeration of it, speaking of it in a negative sense and not the positive sense that the press is our chief ideological weapon, as illustrated by Khrushchev. But further, Chomsky, the general population doesn't know what's happening, and it doesn't even know that it doesn't know. The epitome of grazer. And we are surrounded by teeming hordes that think themselves informed, that think themselves moral, that think themselves being on the right side of history while that history is still being written. So yes, inasmuch as fascism has no meaning except insofar as it signifies something not desirable, it's certainly undesirable that there is pushback against these globalist ambitions. Remember what Bill Casey said as head of the Central Intelligence Agency with regard to Operation Mockingbird? We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. I won't go so far as to say everything, but I'd say they're batting about 750 right now, wouldn't you? It's certainly undesirable for those people seeking to undermine the United States. So when they're taking a look, they look at an administration that's pushing back. It's certainly undesirable to them to see that James Comey and Clapper and John Brennan may be looking to stand trial for treasonous, yes, I said what I said, treasonous activities against the United States of America. It's certainly undesirable to them to see our borders going from this to this in a matter of weeks after the installation of a new president and the resumption of his policies. After all, it was flooding this nation with culturally incompatible immigrants, all single military age males from countries outright hostile to the United States that was just humming along under Biden. But now, from coast to coast, ICE raids in California all the way to ICE raids in Boston. Certainly, those people with globalist machinations and ambitions would find those things undesirable and therefore fascist. Certainly, they would find it undesirable that they did everything in their power to undermine and destroy this man, up to and including 2 assassination attempts that we know of. What a tragedy then to see that he could ultimately become his own undoing. Oh, you thought we were going to get out without addressing that. Guess again, Sparky. We are in a war of attrition. We are in a war of hearts and minds. We are in a clash of civilizations. We are in a war of ideologies. And there is nothing less than the very soul of the West, not just America, but the West at stake. And we are just now starting to throw punches after being behind on the scorecards for the first half of the bout. We're in dire straits, people, and we need to stand up and realize exactly what the stakes are. Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen once said that communism is the final logic of the dehumanization of man. The industrial civilization of the Western world has no intent to destroy man's freedom or to deny his personality. But communism does. Denying God, it reduces man to a robot. I can't speak for the rest of you, but I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And I will not be reduced to a robot. I will not be reduced to a number. With my last breath, I will confess the name of Christ, and I will stand on the greatness of Western civilization. If you haven't made that decision for yourself, tick tock, Sparky, now's the time. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. Might not have one right this second, but there's one coming up. That's right. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to stretch open that unwilling maw and forcibly choke you with truth cock. Black latex glove, fistful after fistful of truth cock until your eye sockets bleed and you either come to the truth or die in the effort. Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. How you been? New location, new set of circumstances. We're going to bounce over here for the roll call just to see who's on board. But in the meantime, in between time, where's the fire? In for the drum roll, people. Charging out of the starting gate as we always come ripping and roaring. The name of the band is Red Desert. Gut stomping rock and roll band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota, which you just heard me mention in the owner. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the tune is Older No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older every week. You guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. Let's see how it rolls for this week. Go ahead and get on with the roll call. First and foremost, right out of the starting gate, the OG sinner sister herself, the divine Miss Emmy. Good to see you, sweetheart. Nice, made it out. Brother Mike Stone, the mighty, mighty boss man. Yeah, I saw that. You're at the hospital with Stacy. I hope everything is well, brother. My prayers go out to you. My heart goes out to you. I hope everything is solid, man. Send me a private message. Let me know what's going on, man. I wish the best for you. My prayers are with you for sure. OG, Prophet of Doom and Reverend Ranger Dennis Weimer on board. Joel Allen Jackson from the Midwest in Ohio. Do you live by the river? Do you live by the river? I went down that river once when I was a child. A little bit of Colonel Kurt's action before you started off. Iron Pig argument. Brother Turtle, good to be back, brother. Good to be back. Believe it. And I need to send you a message about a little project I'd like for you to work on. Oh, look at that, Joe Wisdom on board. Thank you, brother. Glad you found some of that wisdom in the opener, man. Just slapping everything together. It's been a while since I've been doing this on the regular, so we're still getting the hiccups with the production, but it's all good. David, glad you made it out. Terry, good to see you on board. That means Roman's got to be on board as well. Yes, Roman and Kerry from opiumtales.com. Appreciate you being here. Roman, one of my oldest and dearest friends, man. Glad you guys made it out. Lovely Miss Charlie on board. Hello, hello. See which one of the usual suspects have taken the time. Brother Wayne Sharp. Brother, you are on fire right now. You are on fire. I'm seeing you posting all kinds of stuff, man, since that Tulsi memo came out. Good to see it, man. Good to see it. I like that fire, brother. I like that fire. By the way, if you get in touch with your brother, man, tell him I'd love to see him back out for the sermon. That was a very generous donation he made to the offering plate the other week, and I really, really appreciate that. I'd like to see him on more often, man. I know we all got schedules, but it's always good to see. Always good to see. Check it out, man. The great one, Josh Vargas. Good to see you, brother. Can't wait for that conversation once we get it all wrapped up here and bury through this stuff. You guys might have noticed a little change of conditions, change of circumstances. I find myself in San Marcos, Texas. Got the better part of a month before my next assignment starts, which is the luxury about that crane life, man. You know, you get out there, you work, you stack the money, and if you wind up with a month off, you wind up with a month off. And you got to kick it and relax a little bit, take care of some other things. Lord knows, man, when you're working 6/10s to 7/12s, you know what I mean? It's hard. It's hard to have any other kind of life, but every now and then you get to settle down, take a month, take a breath, just kind of get your head back together, and it's usually badly needed by that point. So anyway, man, looks like we've got everybody on board. A whole lot of folks maybe not hip to the fact they nuked my Facebook account, they nuked my Instagram. You guys by now are aware of that, or you probably wouldn't be here. They nuked my Facebook and my Instagram, and when they nuked that, they also nuked my reach with the fan page, Reverend Bart's America, just gone. Still emailing back and forth, but you and I both know that's going to come to nothing. They're not going to give me my old account back. They're not going to give me the fan page back. They've done it to me before, guys. You remember the one time before that they eliminated when I had Primal Iron Strength Training and when I had Survival Defense Systems in Spokane. I had fan pages for both of those, and they just eliminated them, man, summarily, and neither one of those pages had a single complaint against it, and they just nuked them right out from under me. No cause given, no nothing. The pages just vanished, everything. And we're talking memories, we're talking photographs, we're talking all kinds of stuff, years worth that had gone. And man, it was just bad. You understand, and this is one thing that I've always maintained, you understand that when you are using someone else's services, right, you are using it at their behest and at their judgment and at their discretion. They can pull it anytime they want. There is nothing obligating them to give me a page, even if they are getting more than their money's worth in all of the digital information that they're collecting and the stuff that they give to the marketers, all of the data that they're collecting. They're getting more than their money's worth, but you always have to be aware that you are using it at their behest. And at any time and for any reason, or in this case for no reason at all, they can yank it out from under you. It doesn't make it suck any less. Particularly with that one account that I've been on Facebook since 2008, man. Some of those photos, and again, my own fault for not backing it up because you don't think that it's going to be something that'll happen to you. But some of those photos are irreplaceable. Some of those things were posted to Facebook and only on Facebook. I don't have them digitally backed up. That's on me, my own fault. I can't cry about it. Um, but it's a really crappy thing to do. It's a real crap thing to do. They know that they have that kind of power. Zuckerberg, he's playing at saying the right things right now, but we all know, we all know what kind of person he is, and that's fine. Again, I'm using his services, and that's completely his discretion. So I've got nobody to blame but myself. That said, it's still a crappy thing to do to a person, particularly when it's not so much on the ideological grounds now, because he's trying to play good little conservative advocate now. Now that those people are in power, he'll go right back to showing his true colors. Once, God forbid, the Democrats get somebody else in the Oval Office, he'll go right back to doing what he does, and it's okay. What's the guy from Twitter? Dorsey. Dorsey was the same way. I'm thankful. And by the way, guys, if you're looking for like the vitriolic posts and most of the political stuff, you can follow me over on X, right? X/Twitter, whatever. You can follow me over there. And I should probably, there's, I don't know. Let me see if I can find. Let me see if I can find where, if I have a banner for all of my. No, I don't. Oh, wait. Yep. Here we go. Here we go. Bang. Yeah, there's the banner for who I am on all the different things. The Instagram account is fried now. That's all gone. Um, so and Reverend Bart's America, my fan page is now gone, but that's my Twitter, at Reverend Bart, one word, capital R, capital B, at Reverend Bart. That's my Twitter feed. If you want the vitriolic stuff, it's going to be over there, because as long as Elon is in control, I have a lot less concern about anything getting yanked over there. Let me go ahead and get the sponsor shout outs out of the way so we can jump into the meat of this thing. First and foremost, of course, one of my oldest and dearest friends, Roman, and his lovely wife, Carrie, and of course, Roxy, Nally, and a bevy of beautiful models over there at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Roman is doing some beautiful watercolor work. He's one of the most creative people I've ever known, whether it's musically or artistically, whatever. He's a creative mind. He's a creative spirit. So you got beautiful naked women, beautiful watercolor artwork, and testosterone driven commentary. That is a trifecta on Planet Bart. So go check him out. Also, he's got short fiction available now on Amazon under the nom de plume. Sorry, Clem's not here. I can't do the pretentious French accent, but under the pen name Roman, which is his legit name now. That's right. It's official. Last I checked. Correct me if I'm wrong, Roman. But yes, Roman Riva over on Amazon, and he's got Roman Freely, which is there we go. Roman Freely, which is a collection of his work, and I think From Dork to Pimp Daddy has been pulled. That's his backlog and life story, his backstory, and then he's got short fiction going on over there as well. So check it out, Roman Riva. Also, got to give a shout out to my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison from Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. Period. End of statement. Done. There is no other. Yeah, but what about sit down, shut up, you're wrong, okay? There is no other. Nordic Smoke Barbecue, Casey and Dusty Tellison. Dusty is the pit master over there, and of course, Casey, dear friend of mine. And speaking of books on Amazon, he has got one called Freaks of a Feather. It is a war memoir, a combat memoir that started off as a suicide note. An outstanding book, an outstanding piece of work, man. He is a very, very gifted writer. And if you want a first person account of what it is to live life in a combat zone, definitely worth checking out Freaks of a Feather on Amazon. So thank you for that. Any relation to Alberto, one of my favorite artists of all time. I like it. I like it. Houseplants Rev? Yeah. Yeah, you saw that. Yeah, I should probably speak to that. So I'm at Charlie's place in San Marcos, and I just kind of pulled up a place here at the dining room table to set up the laptop. Haven't really put anything behind me. So yeah, the scenery's got to throw some people off. You got some potted plants and things in the background. It's going to be like, I don't know, kind of hard to take you as seriously as a tough guy when you got potted plants in the background, which, I would agree. However, if I were forced to make a retort to that, I would be like, have you ever tried caring for a potted plant? That takes more tenacity and dedication than most men are capable of. So there is that, but I'm not even going to try to justify it. I will have a banner of some sort and a proper background in place by next week, but this was short notice, and we're just trying to put something together because I wanted to be able to do a sermon. I haven't been doing them on the regular. Part of it was owing to a lack of usable Wi-Fi at the motel that I found myself at in Kershaw, South Carolina. Then I got a Starlink system, and then it became about. Then it literally became about being able to articulate. One of the three prime directives is being signal, not noise. You have to be the signal and not the noise. And I was in a frame of mind with everything that was going on a global level and on a national level that I had nothing to offer in the way of signal. It was pure blind rage. Too much going on too fast, and I literally felt like I didn't have anything to offer. And I know a lot of you guys have approached me privately and directly and said, "Look, man, you're an important voice. We need you out here. We need to hear what you have to say." I appreciate that, and I appreciate the support, but I have to be able to make that judgment call to where if I feel like I'm doing you guys a disservice, I'd rather just keep my mouth shut. You know, it wasn't a matter of being away from it. You guys know that the most dangerous place on the planet is between me and a camera or me and a microphone. I've got tier one operator buddies who have seen some really nasty places that'll tell you that's the most dangerous place in the world is between me and a microphone or me and a camera. So, but at the end of the day, man, I just had nothing to offer, and it's very, very difficult. I think getting the accounts nuked might have ultimately been a huge positive for me because it forced me to step back and reassess how much time I was devoting and how much pearls before swine I was really participating in, just giving vent to everything that came across my radar that was pissing me off. And after a while, it's like, why, man? Why are you doing this? Anybody, anybody who is a like-minded, a kindred spirit already knows, right? And they're already feeling it. And anybody who doesn't, they're not going to be convinced. They're not going to be convinced. It's worthless to even try to reach anyone who's not convinced right now. Uh, the things come out every day. Things come out every week that all of the quote unquote crazy things that we've been saying, all of the conspiratorial or Islamophobic or xenophobic things that we've been saying, racist things that we've been saying because we opposed Obama on policy, so therefore we must have hated him because he was black. All these things that we've been saying that seemed outlandish and crazy every single week. Another one or another three of them are proven 100% factually correct. At this point, there's no discussion to be had. You step to someone, you get any pushback, either walk away from the discussion or steamroll over them, depending on the circumstance. They're literally too dumb to live. They're literally there's no excuse when we carry a credit card sized supercomputer, around in our or a candy bar sized supercomputer around in our pockets, a 9-second Google search. There's no excuse anymore. There's no excuse anymore. The documents that just got declassified this week, everything that we have said, right? Everything that we have said about Obama and Obama being at the forefront, by the way, Obama putting it together, Hillary Clinton and her friends at the State Department and her friends Brennan and Clapper and Comey at the CIA and the FBI respectively, and the National Security Agency put together the Russia collusion hoax. We have said that from the beginning. Now all of those documents have been declassified. We were right, they were wrong. Period. End of statement. Full stop. This was a treasonous action in an attempt to unseat and undermine a legitimately freely elected president of the United States, no matter how you may feel about the man, right? He was legitimately and democratically elected in 2016. And they went about using the intelligence apparatus of the United States government to undermine a seated president. That is treason by any reasonable definition. And it's a fact now. Not a, well, there's a lot of speculation involved. No. Here's the flipping document. Here it is. They did it. Sit down, shut up, you're wrong. Well, the border thing is a very, and the whole time we're like, they are flooding this country. They are leaving that border wide the hell open. They are flying people in. That was another tinfoil hat conspiracy theory that got proven correct. They flew literally hundreds of thousands of people in from third world countries, including Haiti, right? Under the it wasn't amnesty, it was a what was it, immigration parole something, right? You guys can Google it. It'll take you about 15 seconds. And literally flights of people coming into the country. They didn't have to cross the southern border. We flew them in. The administration flew them in and settled them in red states to offset the balance of the electorate, to offset the balance of the voting, and to culturally undermine things as well. Because again, you're bringing in people from Haiti, you're bringing in people from Somalia. These are not people. It's the same problem that we ran into trying to install Jeffersonian democracy in the Arab world. It's not going to take. These people we're all the same, and everybody basically just wants the same thing. History says, sit down, shut up, you're wrong. Okay? There's nothing to be had. Diversity is our strength. There's another thing. The minute that escapes somebody's lips, you are not dealing with a thinking person anymore. If you hear diversity is our strength, okay, you're dealing with an idiot. You're dealing with an idiot, okay? And generally a self-imposed idiot. Because truth be told, they're ignoring the evidence of their own eyes, first of all, or they have been indoctrinated in some college lecture or whatever. They have not looked at the relevant facts of the matter. Diversity is not a strength. It has never been a strength. Diversity has never done anything but undermine. Well, the important contributions of all these people and we are a nation of immigrants. There's another one. When that escapes their lips, you are not dealing with a thinking person. We are a nation of immigrants. Okay, enlighten them on the relevant facts of the matter. That up until the 1930s, right, 90% of immigrants into this country came from one of three countries. Okay, one of three. Take a guess, people. You know what they are. England, Ireland, Germany, up until the 1930s, right? With a smattering of Chinese coming across into the West as those things were being built up, okay? But 90% of those immigrants up until the 1930s, right? You were dealing with from one of three places, all culturally uniform, united under one banner of religion, one banner of culture, one race, one general pattern of speech, right? I mean, the English and the Irish both speak kind of English. Anyway, rabbit hole for another time. In the 30s, it shifted. They started bringing in Italians, Russians, and Poles. Notice anything there? Still united under basically the same religious ideology and the same cultural factors. Minor differences in cultural factors with the Russians because they're more Byzantine than European as it existed at the time, right? But they were getting the hell out of Dodge because they were fleeing Soviet Russia. So this thought that we are a nation of immigrants needs to be placed in the proper context. This flooding ourselves with people from the third world has only been going on since 1965, and it has been 100% a disaster by any measurable metric. There is no case for continuing in that set of circumstances. None. Anyone who attempts to argue that should be clowned and ridiculed and left in a fetal position in a puddle of their own piss because they're idiots. Okay? They're idiots. They're self-destructive idiots. And now the stakes are too damn high, so I don't have the patience anymore. I just don't. I'm not going to converse with you. You're wrong. You're wrong, period. And if you force me into a debate, I'm going to crush you, okay? And if you're just, going to spout platitudes, I'm going to walk away. There's no discussion to be had. Go to your little liberal social circle. Go to your college campus get together. Go to whatever echo chamber the Mad Al Mob has you going to get your information. Go play with them. Okay, I don't have time to talk to you. You're literally too stupid to utter so much as a grunt in my presence. Do you understand that? Too dumb. But I have several degrees, and I'm working on my master's program in women's studies and decolonialization of and all the evils of European colonialism and what we did to the. Oh, okay, yeah, great. You know what? I'm going to be more intellectually stimulated talking to other crane operators. One in particular who isn't here yet, but when he shows up, Ryan, you know, I you have no idea. And the stakes are so high right now. The stakes are so high right now that we shouldn't have the patience to carry on conversations with these people. They need to be ridiculed out of the way or steamrolled over if we are going to save any semblance of Western cultural standards for the upcoming generations. Simple as that. Simple as that. Well, let's just have a. No, we're not having a discussion. We're not. You've had the reins for 50 years, right? You've had the reins for 50 years. We've seen what you've done with it. We're going to bury you now. We're going to bury you, right? As I went over in the last sermon, the Constitution is not a suicide pact, right? The Constitution is not a suicide pact, nor is Christianity a suicide pact. Do you understand? We are not required to stick to principles of nonviolence when it means the end of our existence. Do you understand that? We are not required to stick to principles of constitutional rights when they are being used as a cudgel against us, right? We're not required to play that game. You don't belong here. Do you understand? You third world savages do not belong here. If you are not willing to assimilate to Western cultural standards, if you are, more power to you. Welcome in. We'll be happy to elevate you to our standard because we are the benchmark. You need to understand that. There are only two bloodlines that have produced sustainable civilizations, and that is white Europeans and North Asians. Ever. Do you understand that? Okay? So you either elevate to our standard or you go back to whatever third world sore spawned you and go ply your trade there. We don't have the room. We don't have the room and we don't have the mercy because we are not going to stand while you laugh in our faces, taking advantage of that goodwill, taking advantage of that charity, taking advantage of everything that this civilization that you never could have conceived, let alone created, is offering to you and then spitting in our faces and using it against us. And for those of you that have lived comfortably under the umbrella of the West for your entire spoiled, liberal, college-educated little lives that can't wait, that have literally said to me verbatim, I cannot wait until white people go extinct. I've heard this from you. I'd like to hand you a handgun and see how committed you are to that premise. I hope that you mean what you say. I hope that you put one through the roof of your mouth. Because you are the enemy now. You are the enemy. There's no discussion to be had. Who radicalized you, Bart? Who radicalized you? I'm willing to pay attention to the evidence that's observable through my own eyes and ears. I'm willing to look at the data objectively. I'm willing to be uncompromising and unapologetic in my devotion to Western cultural standards, in my devotion to my blood and my people. Are you talking about white people? Yes. Yes, I am. And I'm not going to apologize for that either. Okay? Western cultural standards, Western civilization, and the Christian faith. Making room for our Catholic brothers, okay? Making room for our Catholic brothers because we have to. I feel that it is God's highest expression on this planet. That is the way that I feel. And if if that short dicks you in some way, Sparky, you're welcome to kick bricks. But if you're expecting me to roll over and play dead or to back down, you're going to be waiting a long time. I hope that you packed a lunch. And now the stakes are too damn high. This isn't something that this too will pass. This season will pass. The people who are aligned against us, particularly those on the inside, will stop at nothing less than the complete destruction, the complete extinction of Western civilization and the people that created her. They've said as much. That's cool. I admire the honesty. That sort of candor is appreciated. I like it when people come right out front and say, "We're here to kill you, Whitey." I like it when people come out and say, "You colonizers and you infidels, we're here to kill you and implement Sharia law." I love it when they're that honest. Khalid Muhammad, boy, I miss that guy so much. I miss that guy so much. That kill the white man speech has got to be one of the most brilliant pieces of articulated hatred I've ever heard in my life. It's inspiring. You can't buy hate that pure. I miss him because that level of candor beats the hell out of somebody smiling to my face and talking about tolerance and talking about, acceptance and talking about understanding and compromise when in fact what they want is me in prison or dead. I'd rather you just say so up front. At least then we're talking honestly. It's refreshing. Okay. And I haven't even begun to get to the bullet points yet. Tom, glad you made it out, man. Hey, you've been hanging out in the background there. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. My head wants to explode every time some dumbo tries to lecture me about white colonialism, right? That's the one, Vargas, and you've heard me make this speech before. It's like, yeah, the horrors of European colonialism. Yeah, let me see. The way I remember it, when we showed up, you guys didn't have a written language, hadn't invented the wheel, were living in mud huts, shitting in your own backyards right close to your drinking supply. We showed you sustainable agriculture, gave you paved roads, representative government, showed you the joys of indoor plumbing. Let me see. We built roads, we built hospitals, we built an electrical grid. There was universal employment. We doubled your life expectancy, and we cut your infant mortality rate in half. Oh God, what terrible people we are. Terrible. And then the minute the communist insurgents, like Mugabe's guys in Rhodesia, and I will say Rhodesia, we don't use the Z word in my house, you understand. When Mugabe and his boys got the unrest kicked up in Rhodesia, wow, the minute we leave, what happens? Rhodesia's just prospered since then. Now that we got Evil Whitey out of the way, Rhodesia's just a gem, isn't it? See also South Africa. I'm speaking truth. Even you people who are bristling right now know that I'm speaking truth. And I'm sorry if the truth hurts. Don't think that I wouldn't say this to you if you were standing right in front of me. You ought to know me better than that. In any case, right. Worst inflation in our lifetime for starters. And that's after they had, probably ever have it. No, it is literally the worst ever, Roman. You're absolutely correct. But that's after they went through and butchered all the white farmers. Let's not forget that, because that's kind of important. I just don't care anymore. I'm too old. I don't have enough time left on this earth to worry about what anyone is going to think about stances that I take. None of if you want to feel like that defines me, great, fantastic. Don't share my company. Go away. Kick rocks, pal. I don't care. If I need another friend that bad, I'll feed a stray dog. It doesn't bother me. I am going to, if I know it to be true. ODP, right? Objectively, demonstrably, provably true. You down with ODP? Yeah, you know me. If it is ODP true, I'm going to continue to spit it. If it's short dicks every cannibal on the Congo and hair lips every hillbilly on Buck Creek, it's going to happen. Going to speak it. There it is. It's the truth. Let me see. What is it, Dennis? Butchers the white farmers and complains about what a hellhole the white man left behind because they're hungry, right? Tom, I like to say, I'm sorry your ancestors were so bad at violence. Yeah, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. In any case, man, this is what's at stake right now. And it's open warfare, brother. It's open warfare. None of these were bullet points. We're gonna get to that, and I'm gonna come back around to it. Let me just address the first two bullet points and get them out of the way. Two people who I follow online. Um, Two people who I follow online pretty closely, Mike Rowe and Victor Davis Hanson. Now, the two would seem mutually exclusive to anybody who doesn't know me because Victor Davis Hanson is a college educated intellect and he's, world renowned historian. And Mike Rowe is, the dirty jobs guy. Mike Rowe is a very sharp cat. And I like the idea that he has in mind. I like what he does for the trades. I like the Mike Rowe Works program. I like the fact that he's putting his money where his mouth is and he's pushing for young men to get involved in trade professions because we need that right now more than anything in the United States. They both came out this week and we're talking about AI. They were talking about AI within the context of how it was going to affect employment among the different classes of employment, and that Victor Davis Hanson in particular. Dennis was talking about what Mike Rowe had to say about it, and I listened to what Victor Davis Hanson had to say about it, and he said what it's going to mean is the death of the expert class. You guys will pardon me real quick. Um, he said it would mean the death of the expert class. There has always been an animosity between blue collar working class guys and the intellectual class. I've always felt torn. You guys have been around me long enough to know, not to puff my own pecker, but you guys know that I have a well above average intellect, and I'm uh, well above the acumen of most folks when it comes to matters of a geopolitical or historical nature. You guys know that I have tremendous communication skills, that I'm sharp, that I'm well read, that I know a little something about damn near everything. And some areas of expertise that strike my interest, I am at least as well equipped intellectually as anyone who has spent even masters, or in this day and age, even doctorate level programs at our universities, which are now largely indoctrination centers. I've always felt conflicted because having an intellect like that, if I had decided to go that route, if I had decided that, Roman was there for what amounted to my entire academic pursuit, which was basically one semester at a community college. And thank God that I had it, or Roman and I never would have met. But yeah, Harvard on the highway, man. North Harris County Community College there in Houston. North Harris, North Harvard, Harvard on the highway, whatever they called it. I had one semester there. That's the extent of my academic pursuits. And yet I've been able to educate myself because we live in a day and age where such things are possible. This was before the dawn of the internet, largely, and the generations that are coming after us. Charlie Kirk had an outstanding presentation on that, where he was schooling some college punk at some campus that he was making a speech at, and he was like, no, there are plenty of other avenues for you to pursue an education. Everybody, the old formula was that you went and you got your college degree and then you got a good job with a good company and you worked for them and they took care of you the rest of your life and then you had your pension and all this stuff. That has been dead for decades. And I don't know why we continue to drive kids into this myth, why we continue to there are fields that you can't get by without a degree. All right. I understand that without going to a medical school that you're not going to have a big career in medicine. I understand that without going to a law school, you're not going to have a place to pass. You're not going to be able to pass the bar. You're not going to be able to do well as a practicing attorney. I understand it. And I understand why those regulations are in place. But for any other field, right, it's absurd. It's patently absurd. And now that the standards have been lowered, it's even more absurd for people to spend themselves into hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt and all other manner of things to have a thing, because the workplace is starting to see it now. The people that, and this is where Hansen was coming from, is that Harvard and Stanford and all these other Ivy League schools once produced an elite that you knew if they were coming with a degree from Stanford or a degree from Harvard that they were going to be top level performers, that they have excelled, that they have gone through this rigorous curriculum and they've got a tenacious work ethic and they're going to be a fine employee. Now they are realizing that with the lowering of standards and the abandoning of standards, more to the point, at these indoctrination centers for the Ivy League now, that if you take someone from Stanford, all that you have guaranteed yourself is that you're going to have a self-righteous, entitled prick who is going to be a nightmare for the HR department and is likely going to sue you when you ultimately wind up having to fire them. They would rather hire somebody from A&M. They'd rather hire somebody from Texas A&M or, somewhere else that isn't one of these star-spangled places for higher learning. That's a cultural shift. But more to the point, what we need now are trades. And AI, as Hansen and Mike Rowe on another level we're getting into. What do they always say? What do they say to the blue collar people? When the blue collar people, when we were getting shut out, when they shut down the Keystone Pipeline and all those other things, and the smugness of the intellectual class. Well, learn to code, right? So much so that Twitter had to shut down Learn to Code when suddenly journalists started losing their jobs and the blue collar people were like, just learn to code, bro. You know, they don't like it. They don't. Yeah, thank you, Roman. I knew if anybody would do, you would. Yeah, learn to code, right? Learn to code. Now with AI, learn to code is nothing. All you coders aren't going to be needed anymore. A whole lot of the academic only pursuits, a whole lot of the things that needed experts and the expert class and the intellectual class are going to be done by artificial intelligence now. You are no longer necessary. In your smugness, you made fun of those. See these are calluses. Do you see those? Look closely. Yeah, those are calluses. Do you see that? Those little nubs, like right at the base of those are called calluses, right? That's what happens when you work with your hands for a living. Do you understand that? And they made I'm always conflicted because I am blue collar to the freaking core, but I could have gone that route and done exceedingly well in any field that I would have chosen, whether it was history, or whether it was sociology, or whether it was psychology, or any of those expert classes. I could have done phenomenally well for myself, had a nice, comfortable existence. That is not what was in the cards for me. That is not what I wanted out of my life. And so seeing it from that perspective, just the smugness of those people, I wanted nothing to do with them. I wanted nothing to do with them whatsoever, because the true wisdom about life, in my experience, has always come from people who actually had to work for a living. I can't remember right off the top of my head, and if there are, I would say I probably would be able to count them on one hand, the number of people I've met in my entire life that had any idea what truly living was about, that came from these expert classes. Can't think of one. Can't think of one right off the top of my head. Just can't. That class is about to become obsolete. And I fully intend to treat them with the same compassion and the same sympathy with which they treated us when our jobs were on the chopping block, when they came in and said, well, we're not going to need this because we're going to cut that out. We're not going to need this work on the, you blue collar guys are just going to have to learn to code, right? I fully plan on treating them with the same compassion and sympathy that they offered to us, which is, to wit, frippin' none. I am admonished by Scripture to forgive them for their arrogance. And I do. I forgive them for being arrogant. I forgive them for thinking or just taking for granted that they were so elevated above us intellectually, right? I forgive them for that. And as also admonished in the scripture, I am prepared to let God handle that. Vengeance is mine, I will repay. And I get to watch that debt be repaid as AI replaces them. They're going to show their true colors. You can always tell what class of person you're dealing with by the policies that they endorse. When you hear somebody advocating for universal basic income, that is a nice way of saying I'm about to be I'm either lazy, right? I'm either lazy or my job is about to be rendered obsolete and I need somebody else. It's the same people that want forgiveness on their student loans. They bought the bill of goods and they went in to get that advanced degree so they could lord it over everybody's heads. Haha, I have a college degree and you don't, and I'm going to make the six-figure income. And then they figured out they got scammed and they want us to pay their debt. Again, I'm going to show them the same level of sympathy and compassion they showed us. None. None. You're on your own. I don't get any joy out of seeing this happen to those people. Okay, I'm lying. I'm probably getting quite a bit of joy out of seeing it happen to them, which is wrong. Which is wrong, right? Um, at the end of the day, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. I just don't care. I don't care. Oh, you got your college degree and you're six figures in debt. Not my problem. Don't care. Don't care. You know, you have politicians that will cater to them, that are more than willing to give away someone else's money. That is one of the problems with socialism. It was Margaret Thatcher said that the problem with socialism is sooner or later you run out of other people's money. And here we are. This is why you have people like Mamdani. This is why you have people like Omar Fateh, that and 100 other reasons rising to the forefront. And this is why you have the Democrats who have completely lost their power base. They've lost everything. They have no institutional power anymore. Well, no, that's not true. They have institutional power. They just don't have any political power, okay, anymore. They've lost it. The American electorate has looked at what they pushed and went, this is a total failure. And again, proof that anyone can get elected. They would sooner hand it to Donald Trump than to hand it back to another Democrat. They realize that all of those policies are absolutely morally, politically, ethically bankrupt. They'll give it to anyone else. So the Dems are flexing with their cultural institutional power now. They're using the media, they're using academia, they're using entertainment to try to flex there and influence the culture. And it's largely failing, but there are a couple of things that we do need to look at. In short, for this bullet point, artificial intelligence, because and another thing too with experts. Trust the experts. That's what we're always told. During the pandemic, we were told trust the experts. Trust the experts with regard to healthcare. Okay, fine. You can trust a virologist to know about viruses, but he's not talking to the economist about how shutting down an economy over a virus with a 99.9% survival rate is going to affect things economically. Those experts are not talking amongst themselves. The whole point of a lot of socialist theory is that the government is put into work by experts. You have the experts in every field who are dictating how things go. But again, just like I've said, I've yet to meet anyone who hasn't lived a blue collar life that has any idea how the real world works. It's all theoretical to them. Until they have acquired some real world experience, they are talking out their ass because their mouth should know better. These are just facts. If you're bristling right now, it's probably because you are exactly who I'm talking about. And I'm talking about all my old comedian friends who may be looking at this right now, with the exception of Titus, because Titus has a D average and dropped out of high school. But he's on his own leftist thing, and that's something I'm not going to get into right now. But all of my comic friends from Houston, if you're watching this, yeah, you're probably part of the problem. College educated, think way too highly of your own intellect. You're a joke, man. You're a joke. I understand why you support the policies you do. Right now, Joe Wisdom is going, I bet I know who he's talking about. Yeah, you probably do, don't you? You know exactly who the hell I'm talking about. But, it's cool. Again, forgiveness all around. I don't wish ill on these people, but I can't be bothered to even take their opinions into account right now, because you have to understand, if this civilization dies, All of it's for nothing. All these protected classes, all these marginalized, downtrodden, the intersectional, the intersectional groups, the oppressed groups that everybody's looking to protect right now. You don't understand. If the West dies, they're all done. Do you get that? Um, if you are gay or trans in this country, you think yourself oppressed because you don't get your first choice of baker for your wedding cake. Yeah, you still get the cake. You just don't get your first choice of baker, and you think yourself oppressed. Yeah. Here's a word for you, Sparky. If the West dies, particularly if Jihad Johnny winds up at the top of the pecking order, they kill you. Queers for Palestine, guys, they kill you. Do you understand? You exist because we're here. And yet you work to undermine and destroy the very thing that makes your existence possible. It is the damnedest thing. A mental illness by any measure. But here we are. All of the experts, getting back to the bullet point, AI is going to be the death of that expert class. We don't need you to give us your theory on how things are going to work out if we take a break. We don't need the Faucis of the world anymore. We don't need we don't need any of those so-called experts to determine anything. We go to AI. You're obsolete, pal. You're unnecessary. And guess what? Sooner or later, all of the other trades, all of the things that I'm doing are going to be mechanized. Sooner or later, there's going to be AI running the cranes that's going to be able to calculate and put things into place, and the human factor is going to be obsolete. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. Not in my lifetime. Electricians, plumbers, not in my lifetime. And God forbid the power grid goes down and that AI suddenly, you know what? I would rather be stuck in a long-term grid down generational collapse. I would rather be stuck with 100 blue collar folks across a plethora of trades than I would 100 college graduates, no matter what their degree was in. I don't care what your degree is in. Whether it was, whether it from women's studies to, colonial oppression to, I don't care. Maybe you got a degree in tech. Maybe you know how to code, bro. Great. Still rather take my chances with the blue collar people. The expert class is dying, right? If you want a chance at a future, and if you want your kids to have a chance at a future, you need to get them into a trade. You need to get them into a trade early, and you need to push that. Because guess what? These comfortable people, even assuming that the expert class was allowed to continue, even assuming they do get their universal basic income and all of these things, that they continue to live their cushy little life, they are going to need people to fix their pipes. They are going to need people to replace their AC compressor in their car. They are going to need people to take care of, to rewire their heat pump when their home AC goes out in the middle of a Texas summer. They're going to need all of these things. Make yourself indispensable. And for those of you out there, and I know that particularly with this generation, there's a lot of them that are going, yeah, man, but I don't want to work with my hands, man. I'm more of like a thinker. I don't want to like sweat. I don't want to. You deserve everything you get, Sparky. You deserve every damn thing you get. And I'm going to take this because I'm on a tear right now. I'm going to take a minute to brag on my son, James Wilder, James Austin Brown. He's not a flesh and blood, right? I was blessed to get that kid. I was blessed to get that kid. Blessed to be able to raise that kid in a previous marriage. He is coming from a generation that is easily with the potential to be, and largely in practice, the most useless generation that's ever come down the pike. And because he learned a work ethic, and because he learned how to turn wrenches, man, I put that kid under the hood with me working on that 88 diesel Suburban a couple of jobs, and he hated it, but he stuck it out. And now that guy is 10 times. My son is 10 times the wrench jockey that I will ever be, the gearhead that I will ever be. He's got a tremendous skill set, and he just got placed in a very high-ranking position with the City of Spokane Parks and Recreation Department, out there working with his hands, clearing brush, you know, maintaining trails, taking environmental studies and putting them into practice, beautifying locales. He got a high-ranking position with Parks and Rec doing what he's doing, but he works with his freaking hands because of his tenacious work ethic and because of his adaptability to learn new skill sets. I'm so frippin' proud of that kid. You can't even imagine how proud of that kid I am. He's amazing. And you know what? He's going to be making a good living doing that. I'm not going to get into what his income is, but he's going to be making a good living doing that. It's out there. I wish that I would have gotten into the trades way earlier in life. And I've already regaled you with this story, but you guys already know I didn't get into the crane game until I was 51 years old. 51 years old. I was 4 years shy of being AARP eligible when I took up the crane game. I had a jacked up lumbar spine and a bone on bone hip. I had no business doing what I did. None. When Ryan gave me that phone call, he said, "You want to learn this stuff? I'm on a wind farm in Nebraska. I need one word, yes or no." 3 days later, I was in Nebraska. And I worked on the wind farms between Nebraska and Texas for a year. And that hip was jacked, and that spine was jacked. And when I finished crane school at the end of that year, I finished on a cane, but I stuck it out. And the second crane seat that I got was a company with good insurance, and I was able to get my back fixed and my hip fixed and everything. But I stuck it out at 51 years of age. So when I see these young guys, it's like, oh man, I can't find a job. Everything's too hard. Dude, I got no sympathy, bro. None whatsoever. The trades are there. They need people. You can literally write your own ticket. Get into the trades, because thanks to AI, the expert class is dying. And as I talked about at the beginning of the bullet point, as I was talking about, there were two different people that I listened to this week that were going over that. One was part of the expert class. Mike Rowe, he's from the blue collar side. Victor Davis Hanson is the expert class. He is the aging academic. He is the historian. He is the guy whose entire repertoire revolves around the books that he's written and the fact that he's a historical scholar. He is from the expert class. He sees it coming. Mike Rowe from the blue collar class, he sees it coming. Nothing is going to stop this thing, people. Everything is about to change. The only thing that remains to be seen is which side you're going to fall on when it's all said and done. When this thing is done shaking out, you're either going to be the person who still has a skill set that will enable them to feed themselves and their family, or you're going to be part of the class that goes begging, which means that you're either starving or you're going to be completely at the mercy of whatever government comes along and says, "We'll be happy to take care of you as long as you do what you're told." For some of you, that'll be an easy enough adjustment because you have no spine, you have no balls, and the only thing you've ever been special at is following rules. So good luck to you on that front. But if that's not the fate that you wish for yourself, you better figure out which side of this you're on, because that shoe is about to drop. The clock is ticking. Tick tock, tick tock. I hope you make the best of it. That's bullet point number 1, AI and the death of the expert class. The 5th and the 25th. This one's not going to take very long to go over. Again, all of the things that we knew from the very beginning that have all been proven correct. All of your liberal friends, they are still going to continue to make the case. It doesn't matter. They're wrong. ODP, wrong. ODP, wrong. There's no discussion to be had. There's no conversation to be had. You don't speak something and let them have their input. You tell them this is what happened. You can ask them how they feel about what happened, but don't ask them what they think happened, because they're wrong. It's out there. It's done. Biden was a cadaver. They knew before he took office. Rogan was making noises about it before he took office. Any number of conservative commentators were making noises about it before he took office. The 2020 election, the only thing I cannot say with authority yet is that the 2020 election was stolen or rigged. I cannot say that with authority. The preponderance of evidence indicates that. You and I both know it, but as Lonzo said in training day, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. Right now, we can't prove that, but it's coming, and we all know, okay? But regardless, going into 2020, everybody knew he was too far gone. We saw his performance in the debates. We saw how the COVID thing upset everything. He was behind going into South Carolina. And then after South Carolina, he won that one big primary. And then all of the Democratic primaries just kind of went away after that. Bernie was on his way to win again, but couldn't handle it. Biden was the puppet. He was installed. Everybody looked at the videos he was shooting in his basement, which he never left. Everybody saw that when he did these rallies, he couldn't fill a high school auditorium. And somehow managed to get 81 million votes. He was gone. Absolutely gone. Democrats, liberals insisted that that was all just a bunch of hooey, that that was all just made up, that it was all tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, that all these things were just BS. And they continued to carry on this charade, even as we got into the first year of his presidency, and then particularly right about midway through the second, where he was totally gone. Saying the quiet part out loud, well, they tell me I'm going to get in trouble if I answer any questions, so I'm going to leave the... Dude, what? You're the president of the United States. What do you mean you're going to get in trouble if you answer any questions? It was obvious to anyone who wasn't deliberately trying not to see it. We tried to tell them. They did not listen. They insisted. Scarborough, that classic. This is the best version of Biden ever. He's sharp as a tack. And then a week later, the debate happened. We all got to see it with our own eyes in real time. They carried on this charade for 4 years. For 4 years. Now it's all coming out. The doctor, Biden's doctor, who knew? They put him in front of Congress this week. What did he do? He took the fifth 17 times. I wish to exercise my Fifth Amendment privilege. I'm not going to answer that question on the grounds of doctor-patient confidentiality, and besides that, I'm exercising my rights under the Fifth Amendment. He exercised his rights under the Fifth when what they should have done was exercised our rights under the 25th. The 25th Amendment should have pulled him out of office and would have under any sane world. Bone! Bro, I'm so happy to see you, man. I've been thinking about you a lot, man. I missed you, man. I've been worried about you. I'm glad you're here. George, glad you're here too, brother. Glad you're here. George, hey, don't worry about it. You missed, watch the replay. It's all good, man. I'm still not hitting my stride yet, man. I'm still trying to get my chops back. I just appreciate you guys showing up, man. Thanks for being here. Where the hell was I? Yeah. They could have exercised the 25th for us. He was clearly unfit, and they knew it. They knew it before he ever took the oath of office. They damn sure knew it a year in, and they double damn sure knew it 2 years in. And they continued deliberately to cover this up. We maintained that the whole time. We told them the whole time. It's patently obvious this man is in early onset dementia. He's gone. He doesn't know what planet he's on. And the media, again, getting back to the opener. What did Khrushchev said? What did Khrushchev say? The press is our chief ideological weapon. He kept coming back to that. The media sold it. It was the media that sold us on the candidacy. It was the media that insisted that everything was fine. It was the media that insisted that, he's sharp as a tack. He's the best version of whatever. There's no discussion anymore. When you go to say something about this, the media deliberately covered up the fact that Biden was wrecked with dementia. Well, I don't think, shut up. Shut up. I didn't ask you what you thought. You don't get an opinion. You're wrong. These people need to be steamrolled ideologically and physically, because the very survival of our nation, the very survival of representative government, the very survival of the West depends on it. I don't want to hear what any of them have to say. They had a say. And the only thing they prove to us is that they are capable of lying, manipulating, covering up, and whatever else is necessary to hang on to power. It's our turn now. They want to cry fascism, so be it. I've been called a lot worse by much better people. Here's the sad reality for you guys, and then we're going to move on with the bullet point. Here's the sad reality. There's no way out of this at this point that doesn't involve authoritarianism. If I am faced with the choice between left-wing, communist, globalist authoritarianism, godless, secular authoritarianism, or right-wing authoritarianism, I'm going to take that step to the right 10 times out of 10. If those are my only two options. On principle, I reject authoritarianism out of hand. On principle, I absolutely reject authoritarianism. But that's been removed from my wheelhouse at this point. I can stay in the middle and die, or I can choose one side or the other. That's literally what it's coming down to at this point. Those who are being identified as right-wing authoritarian extremists are the only people that stand between us and oblivion. I'm talking about people like Viktor Orban in Hungary. I'm talking about people like Bolsonaro in Brazil before they managed to eliminate him. Javier Milei, crazy Argentinian with the chainsaw and the bad haircut. What a great guy. He's doing amazing things. He's considered authoritarian. The leaders of Poland are considered authoritarian. They're prospering, while the rest of the West descends into chaos. Seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? Back to the bullet point. The doctor pled the fifth. A lot of other people are going to be put before Congress, and they're all going to plead the fifth. Some of the people are getting out ahead of this thing. Tapper was smart. He put the tell-all book out about how he was pressured to lie and he was given false information. By the way, he wasn't. He knew he was lying. He was being proactive in his lying, and that's fine. He saw which way the winds were blowing. He got out ahead of it. Karine Jean identity hire, yeah, same thing. She cut herself loose and started telling tales, and a lot more people inside. The smart ones are going to come out first, and they're going to get proactive about it. They're going to be like, yeah, we lied. They told us to lie. Jill did this. They asked us to do this. Jill told us to do that. They're going to start naming names. They're going to try to save their own asses. They're going to start eating their own because they're leftists. That's what they do. Good. Glad to see it. But the doctor pled the fifth over and over and over again. All these people who are going to be put before Congress to make these speeches are going to plead the fifth over and over and over again. There's a reason why it's a constitutional right. But these same people, every time anybody from the previous administration pled the fifth, well, pleading the fifth is just like an admission of guilt. Now that they do it, watch the switch. Watch the switch. Well, just because you plead the fifth doesn't mean you're guilty of anything, man. This prosecution is entirely political, and what's the media going to do? You know good and well what the media is going to do. What they've always done. Left good, right bad. Orange man bad. The man needed to have been removed by a 25th Amendment. Things were already going so catastrophically badly that they could not allow any kind of vacuum. The whole thing was about to go tits up. Now they've got a little more luxury. They've got 4 years with Orange Man back in office to figure out a game plan, which takes us to our next bullet point. The 25th Amendment should have been exercised, but they didn't because they're coming up with a game plan, and that takes us to the next bullet point. Fateh, Mamdani, and the future of the Democrats. In 2016, they lost. They legitimately did not see that coming. When it started becoming evident that it could happen, they developed a counter plan. That was the Russia collusion hoax. All those documents are now being declassified. What we're going to find out is that Obama and Hillary put this thing together to sabotage Trump so that no matter what he did, he would be fighting that for 4 years. And hopefully they get him out after 4 years. And if they couldn't, they would have continued with something else. All these things are about to become public knowledge. Tulsi Gabbard, God bless that woman. Oh, Tulsi. Ugh. She's right up there with like Ann Coulter. She's right up there with Ann Coulter now. She's like, my Tulsi. Oh, yeah. But remember, I was the same way about Amy Coney Barrett when she was going through her hearings. So I've been wrong before. Tulsi has yet to disappoint me. I want to bathe that woman's feet in precious oils while she reads aloud from Bastiat's The Law. God, what an amazing. Well, no, while she reads aloud from intelligence briefings. Yeah. Tulsi's my girl, man. She was the best cabinet pick of the whole bunch. Absolute best cabinet pick of the whole bunch. Good on her for what she's doing. Here's the point. The Dems should have, in 2016, if they'd have been smart, they would have said, okay, clearly we failed. We need to take a step back. We need to get on message. We need to present something that's going to appeal to the American people. It's going to legitimately speak to their interest. And we need to come back out charging in the midterms and in 2020. They didn't do that. What they did instead was release the Steele dossier and start in on the Russian collusion hoax that was stretched out for 4 years, including a Mueller investigation, cost millions of dollars to the taxpayer that they all knew was false. 2020, they had to rig an election. And again, we'll have that debate another time. That's the only thing that's still open for discussion right now until the documents come out. Okay? That is something we can argue about. But for the record, I'm saying that election was stolen. You know it. I know it. We all know it. Okay? Taking that as a given, we move forward. They held the reins of power for 4 years. 4 years that was an utter disaster with a man who was not running anything. Biden doesn't get the blame for any bad thing that happened during those 4 years. I want to be abundantly clear on that. He doesn't get the blame for a single thing that took place between 2020 and 2024. He doesn't take the blame for any of it because he was not the one running the show. Likewise, he doesn't get any credit for assuming anything good happened in those 4 years, he doesn't get the credit for that either. The point is this. The Dems don't have a message. They don't have a game plan. The old guard of the Dems, like Biden and Pelosi with her problematic dentures and her drinking problem, they are trying to stem the tide because all the mainstream Democrats see the hard left up and coming. They want no part of it. They're jumping ship. They're either staying at home on election day or they're jumping ship and going Republican because they can't believe that this Democratic Party is allowing this to happen. Bernie was radical enough. AOC, certainly radical enough to shake most mainstream Democrats off. Then you had the Rash, Rashida Tlaib, the Rash, even more radical. Ilhan Omar, even more radical. Now you got guys like Hakeem Jeffries posing with a baseball bat. It's lunacy what these people are doing. But they're doubling down on that lunacy and they are playing it out to the hilt. They are carrying it all the way through to the end. And who am I talking about? You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Omar Fateh, right, in Minneapolis, and I am talking about Zoran Mamdani. This is the future of the Democratic Party. Okay? And this bullet point is going to lead into the last one. This is the future of the Democratic Party. They have sold you on soft socialism up until this point. Socialist by any other name. All of their policies have been socialist. Now these guys who are just avowed Marxists are just coming out and saying it. Yeah, I'm Marxist and I want to be your mayor. And they're getting response. This ranked choice voting thing that they do in New York City, my God. In a standard election, people like this would never get traction. But because of things like ranked choice voting, he was able to get traction, and he stands a pretty damn good chance of being the next mayor of New York City. It'll be just like Portland. It'll be just like SoCal. It'll be just like Seattle. We will get to see the end result of socialism / Marxism / communism being played out in real time. That's the beauty of this. Okay. Being from the Northwest, I can tell you what socialist policies have done to Seattle, what socialist policies have done to Portland. I can tell you the kind of people that they've created or the kind of people that they've attracted. I can tell you the end result of these policies, the hard drug decriminalization in particular in Portland, the fact that everybody east of the Cascades in both Washington and Oregon wants to split and become part of Idaho. But here's the thing that we're failing to look at. One of the things that the Close the Border crowd has said from the beginning is there's people are, the problem with grazers and with normies is they always try to think as if these people are human, as if these people have the same human drives like compassion, logic, common sense, any of these things. Why would a president leave the borders open like that? Why would he do that? And we answer back because we understand the way this works. We understand that what you want to do is you want to flood the country with people who are going to become your voters. If you can't sell American citizens on your BS anymore, you flood the country with people in the hopes of giving them amnesty, in the hopes that you will find some way for them to vote illegally, in the hopes that you will upset enough things culturally to throw off the numerical balance. Minneapolis is an example of what the mission is and how the mission executes successfully. They flooded that congressional district with refugees and immigrants from Somalia. Flooded it. Culturally incompatible. Eventually, they isolate into their own communities because staying with your own and looking out for the interest of your own people is okay for everyone except white Europeans. Somalians congregated together, and as a result, no-go zones. Somalia is a hotbed for radical Islam. Somalians brought that radical Islam with them to the United States. If you look at that congressional district and the FBI has had more investigations for domestic terrorism, particularly radical Muslims, in that district than any other congressional district in the United States. Feel free to look that up. Feel free to fact check that. But more to the point, they have flooded it, and these people have finally obtained citizenship, and they are able to vote. Who do they vote for? I'm sure a large number because of the lax laws, because Minnesota is one of those states that said, no, we can't demand proof of citizenship before letting people vote. We can't demand proof of citizenship. We can't demand voter ID. But that district in particular, because of the sheer numbers, because again, except for white Europeans, it's totally encouraged for you to vote for your own kind, right? It's how Sheila Jackson Lee was able to carry that district. Okay? Voting for your own, it's okay, everybody but white Europeans. Somalians in that district. Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar literally married her brother to get around immigration paperwork and requirements to get him into the United States. She was brought here originally under a program under the auspices of USAID, which thankfully has been dismantled now. You know, USAID is the whole reason I got here. It's like, honey, you might not want to tell people that. Because if there's ever a reason for dismantling the whole program, Ilhan Omar is it. She's as anti-American as they come. She is, you know, you want to dog on me for being a racist, but what is her thing? We need to investigate white men. White men are a terrible threat to the nation, and there needs to be more investigations of white men. Wow. Thank you, Ilhan. Appreciate that. Nice observation. From the woman whose own people have the terrorism stats that I just mentioned with the FBI. But we need to be looking more into white guys. I get it, Ilhan. Good job. This woman should never have been allowed citizenship. Never should have been allowed to run for Congress. But she did. And she won because of the numbers. Why did she have the numbers? Because those borders were specifically left open, because those migration patterns were dictated by design to steer those Somalians into one pocket and one major congressional district. All of this is by design, people. All of it. Always has been. Since 1965. That Immigration Act that Ted Kennedy, may burn in hell, pushed and got through Congress, basically eliminated European immigration. We didn't bring in people from Europe anymore. It put the focus on third world immigration. All of a sudden, instead of this nation of immigrants, you can only have a melting pot where you have cultural integrity and cultural similarity. And among European nations, that was possible. There were hiccups, certainly. But since 1965, we have been flooded by savages from the third world. They know nothing. They know nothing about Western civilization except that it's evil and bad, and they colonized us, and we want to see it come apart. They are here to take. They are not here to create. And when you brace them, they'll tell you as much. We have allowed this to happen. Europe has allowed it to happen in even greater concentrations, and see how it is working out for them. In Germany, feel free to Google this. In Germany, a judge, there were 9, I may be misquoting the number by 1 or 2. There were 9 people involved in this gang rape, a gang rape of a 15-year-old German girl, right? The rapists in question were not Germans. We'll leave it there. Third worlders, refugees, immigrants. No hate, no fear. Refugees are welcome here. All of them. Non-Germans. They gang raped this girl for 3 hours. Out of the 9 that were involved, only 1 of them received prison time, even though they had DNA evidence from all of the attackers. That's right. 9 men gang raped a German girl for hours, plural, all of them ejaculating into her at least once. God knows what diseases, God knows what else. The horror of this. German judge only sentenced 1 of them to prison time. And the expert, again, getting back to the expert class, the expert witnesses who testified said that it was an adjustment for these third worlders coming to a place like Europe and not having any friends or support mechanisms, and that because of this, they're going to act out in physical ways to express dominance and identity. And a German judge, a woman no less, only sentenced 1 of them to prison. That's an anecdote. Why don't you crunch the numbers on the stats? Because the plural of anecdote does not equal data. I'm well aware of that. But look at the data. The number of rapes, the frequency of rapes, and the ethnicity of the people committing them. All over Europe, it is like this. It is becoming this way in the United States. We have the ability to put an end to it. We have leadership that is incentivized to do that very thing. And we have people inside the United States that, in spite of knowing what needs to be done, insist that it remain exactly as it is. Why? Because they benefit politically. The people who seek to undermine this country need that border wide open. Here's a little exercise for you, fun little exercise. You guys have done this with me before. The Google search thing. Open borders under Biden. That's your search term. Go to Google, open borders under Biden. 4 words, open borders under Biden. The first 4 results that come up, and 5 of the first 6 that come up. 6 of the first 7, 7 of the first 8, 8 of the first 9. 8 of the first 9 results that come up are all fact-checking Greg Abbott's claim that Biden has an open border policy. Does Biden have an open border policy? Newsweek, Joe Biden doesn't have an open border policy. Fact check Biden's border policy. Biden's border record, claims versus reality. How Joe Biden and Donald Trump's border policies compare. Biden's supposed open border policy. All of these things that come back first are all fact checks, and all of them soundly deny that the Biden administration had an open borders policy. And when you dig into any of them, it's sniveling, it's wordplay, it's semantics, it's all, well, on paper, they didn't say, on paper, they said they had secured the border and that they were working very hard and allocating resources. We all saw with our own eyes what happened. They didn't have an open border policy, and yet over 4 years, 12 million people got in, were welcomed in. We went so far as to create an app to facilitate them getting in. We flew hundreds of thousands of them in. But yet, the fact checkers are going to tell you that there was no open border policy. Do you understand why there's no conversation to be had with people? Go to your liberal friend. They'll pop up and say, well, I looked at the fact checkers. The fact checker said he didn't have an open borders policy. There's no conversation to be had with these people. They're wrong. Full stop. 12 million. Thousands a day were getting it. Trump got back in office, re-implemented Remain in Mexico, re-implemented all the policies that were working before, put Tom Homan as border czar, and that cross-border traffic dried up to 0. Done. He's doing his best to get people out. Do you know that just to break even for the 12 million we had under Biden that we know of, just to break even, we'd have to be removing 8,000 a day just to break even. We'll never achieve that. Not in 4 years. And the courts are fighting us being able to get rid of anyone. Let me tell you what the Rev has to say about that. The Rev has to say, get rid of every last damn one of them. All of them. All of them, no exceptions. What about the families? They can be deported together. What about the people who have been here for 20 years? In 20 years, and it never occurred to them that, hey, maybe I should get legal? They've got even less of an excuse. Throw them out. They're just right there picking up people outside the Home Depot. Good, because we know they're going to be there. Well, they're snatching people at protests. Good, because we know they're going to be there. It's very simple. Are you here legally? No. Goodbye. Yeah, but you wouldn't say that. Yes, I absolutely would. That goes for white European immigrants as well. But saying that Trump's border policies apply unfairly to brown people is kind of like saying that rape laws apply unfairly to men. Okay? Hear me out. Technically, it's against the law for women to rape too. But the women aren't out there doing a whole lot of raping, are they? Right. So if they suddenly find a pocket of 1,000 Swedish guys or a couple hundred dudes from Norway that have been hiding out in some enclave and overstayed their visas, they got to go too. Bye. You're not here legally. But we all know that the overwhelming majority of these people who have overstayed their visas or who have just run, jumped, or swam across the border and they're here working at a meat packing plant, working at the orchards and everything, we know where they're coming from. It's not my responsibility that that is the majority of people that this law is affecting. Those are the people who are most ubiquitous among the lawbreakers. Doesn't matter where you're from, you got to go. Simple as that. If for no other reason than the fact of what Mamdani and what Fateh represent, they have sold this guy. They have sold this guy. All of these things are related, by the way. Marxist Muslims are the future of the Democrats, by all indications. They're not even playing like they have any interest in representative government anymore. Marxist Muslims. That's the future. If you're a Democrat, those are the candidates they're going to put progressively more and more radical leftists in front of you as the chosen candidate. Mainstream Democrats aren't going to have much of a choice. They can either sit it out or they can vote for this. How does that come back to the open borders thing? Well, because under those 4 years, under that administration for 4 years, these wide open policies, there were any number of months along our southern border in places like Arizona, New Mexico, SoCal, where the number of Chinese that were coming across the border illegally that they were having encounters with exceeded the number of Mexicans. Why is that important? Does China strike you as the kind of place that you can just leave if you're not happy living there? If you're a Chinese citizen, you think you can just say, "Man, I really don't dig living here. I'm just going to bail, right? I'm just going to renounce my citizenship and I'm going to bail." You really think you can do that? So how do tens of thousands of military-aged single men find their way from China to Mexico and cross our southern border to get into the United States? How do military-age single men from adversarial nations in the Middle East, many of whom are on terrorist watch lists, get all the way over here and facilitate their entry across the southern border of the United States? Which again begs the question, why was this border left so wide open? Because you have people, high-ranking members of the intelligence community who are hell-bent for globalist interests. You have high-ranking members of government who are either compromised or hell-bent to globalist interests. You have members of government who have financial incentives. You are looking at fifth-generation warfare, and none of this is conspiracy theory anymore. This is practical reality. It's boots on the ground. It's documented. Everybody knows what is coming. Everybody who has been keeping up knows what is coming. There is a reason why they fought so vehemently when they started dismantling USAID. USAID was their money laundering operation that was facilitating all these things. You guys remember during Iran-Contra, right? It was like we had to find Congress wasn't going to fund these dirty little wars. Well, Congress certainly wasn't going to fund high-ranking Democrats in their efforts to undermine and destroy representative government in the United States. USAID became the operation that funded them surreptitiously. Surreptitiously, that's my college word. I got like 3 of those. Oh, they fought that, didn't they? You really want to know You really want to know when the Democrats place some importance on something, threaten to take it away and watch how they react. USAID had them flipping out. Now it's gone. Have you noticed how many programs have gone off the air? Have you noticed how many charitable organizations just don't have money to help bring immigrants and lose 300,000 kids in the process? Have you noticed all the things that happen as soon as they shut down USAID? It's shaken out. In the coming months, you're going to get to see how it all breaks down. You're going to look at these things that have been harmful, that you've been looking at going, wow, this is really harmful to American interests. And suddenly it's not going to happen anymore because its funding got cut off. USAID is no longer a thing. What else did they fight hard on? The border. They need that border open. And the ones who they've already let flood into the country, they need them to stay here. They need them badly to stay here for all of the things for which they were brought in the first place. One of which, in the final analysis, is something that a whole lot of people don't want to believe, and that is legitimately when the balloon goes up, shock troops and sleeper cells inside the United States of America. The ones who came across our southern border from China, the ones who came across our southern border from adversarial nations, the ones who were on terror watch lists, the ones who were distributed in red states through the late night redistribution flights. They were bringing these people over from Haiti and all these other places and flying them around in the middle of the night. How come we haven't heard about it? Why wouldn't the TV have said something? And you go, dude, do I really need to point at the sign? Do I need to point at the sign? Right. These sleeper cells are in place. These people are trained. And what we're looking at now is the earliest stages of what we call tester operations to see where we're at. This thing that happened up in Idaho, right? Allegedly lone gunman, start a wildfire. In that area of the country, guaranteed first responders are going to get there quick. And when the first responders arrive, bang, 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 bang. In the Middle East, what Jihad Johnny will do often is they have two explosives in place. And one IED that goes off, boom, mass casualty event. And then they wait. And when the first responders come in, all the medical personnel, military personnel, law enforcement guys, they all come rushing in to help. Boom, you detonate the second one. Not only have you doubled your body count, but you've eliminated a wide swath of the people who are there to help, so that the next time when you bomb, there are going to be fewer paramedics available. So the next time where you're trying to put people into someplace, there'll be fewer law enforcement agency individuals to be able to prevent you from doing that. Do you understand how sick these people are? Brilliant tactically, but these people are sick. These people are sick. Whether they're U.S. citizens or whether they are from these foreign countries, we've seen enough of the hard left ideology here in the United States to realize that you can be a citizen and have come through. You can be a citizen of privilege, even. And Vargas, I know, when I was watching Eddington last night, and guys, if you haven't seen Eddington, you should. All of these people, let's look, I'm going to run this out again. These were the people involved in the attack against the ICE facility in Texas. An ICE trooper was shot in the neck in the course of this event. Now, take a look across the board. You have 1, 2, 3 that I count that are vaguely ethnic, right? One guy looks Mazo. There are a couple of chicks that look Mazo. And the rest of them are white and vaguely gendered. A couple of them wound up being trans activists, Trantifa, they're calling it, whatever. These are U.S. citizens, white U.S. citizens, college educated white U.S. upper middle class citizens. These are creatures of privilege, but their heads have been twisted up. And because they believe they are on the right side of history, they can be manipulated into damn near anything. I will refer you to Patty Hearst in the 1970s. You guys familiar with that? Some of you younger guys might have to Google it. Go ahead and take your time. The Symbionese Liberation Army, one of these Marxist nut job front groups in the 1970s, they kidnapped Patty Hearst, who was the daughter of, the heir to the Hearst newspaper and magazine fortune. You don't get much more privilege than that. This woman was going to live a cushy millionaire's lifestyle for the rest of her natural life. They twisted her head up, and she participated in bank jobs. She participated in acts of violence involving gunplay on behalf of the SLA. Carter pardoned her, if memory serves. There were no consequences. In a lot of jurisdictions, there'll be no consequences for people like this. If this would have taken place in Oregon, every single one of them would have already been released on a PR bond. I'm not even remotely kidding. They would have already been released. Even though somebody got shot because they didn't die, the DA would have let them go on a PR bond. This is how twisted up it is. This is what we're up against, and this is how deep they are in the institutions. I'm trying to get it out there in a way that even the most thick-headed, even the most honestly motivated but liberal individual can understand exactly what we're up against. These were the 10 that were involved in the attack against the ICE facility in Texas. And then again, Portland, they hit the ICE facility in Portland as well. The attack in Idaho, they're not talking about the politics of the person in question, but there are indicators that he was hard left. But more to the point, the one in Texas is particularly troubling because you have at least 7 of them being useful idiots, right? Middle class normie, white kids. But they're testing the waters. How much could they get away with? The way that it was coordinated, it wasn't like a professional job or anything, but any amount of coordination with this group, this type of activity, it's a test. They're moving on to bigger and better things. It's that first wave, second wave thing, like the 2 IEDs we discussed before. You send them out there and they smash some windows of patrol cars and spray paint ice pig down the side of it. And unarmed agents come out because they haven't been exposed to this kind of stuff yet. Unarmed agents come out and say, "Hey man, you're under arrest. Get away from the car." And you've got snipers. They're coming out unarmed. They're not ready to engage. And all of a sudden, zip bang. One guy gets shot in the neck. Others are getting wounded. And it takes them a couple of minutes to put together a response, to actually return fire. Expect more of this. Expect more of this, and expect more of it in many more places. And expect that while right now there's a whole lot of white upper crust normies involved, that eventually those demographics are going to shift. That when the full sleeper cells start getting activated, you are going to see high death tolls. You are going to see high body counts. You are going to see attacks against hardened facilities. You're going to see random attacks against police across the board, against police stations, and schools and churches. Churches in particular, where Jihad Johnny is concerned. That little incident that happened, what was it, Michigan? Not very long ago. There have been hundreds of attacks against churches here in the United States, even more overseas. And it's going to get worse. All the while, the Democrats continue to double down on this exact ideology. Because sadly, there are some people who don't, they're either not capable of, we haven't been able to reach them, or they're deliberately tunnel vision with the blinders on, that refuse to realize the enormity of what's going on here. They cannot adapt fast enough for the situation that's about to get dropped in their laps, because we have lived far too comfortably for far too long. Wokeism, hard liberalism, is a mental illness. If you had a black power organization that just started massacring people, or a Muslim organization that just started attacking churches at random, you'd actually have more than a few liberals who would be okay with probably a month worth of attacks before they really started getting upset. You would have any number who would go, well, I really don't know the details of all of it. And I mean, yeah, I guess when you break it down, that it does seem to be just like, it does seem to be like mostly Muslim groups that are doing this, and they are attacking like mostly Christian churches. But I mean, I don't know their motivation. We can't really be sure. I mean, they didn't say anything about it. Whereas thinking people look, they recognize what it is, and they take action against it. And these same left of center people will say, it's all this racism is just going to make it worse. Sorry about your bumper sticker, Sparky, but you can't coexist with people who want you dead. The first shots of the American Cold Civil War, is now going hot. These attacks against the Ice Ages are just the first of it. They're going to ramp up. And I will tell you firsthand, Tom Homan is not to be trifled with. He's going to hit back even harder, and he should. They're going to ramp up the attacks. The administration is going to be compelled to come down like a freaking hammer. Ah, there you are, Ryan. I've been waiting for you. Yeah, right. There you go. Roman just looked up the term who removed more illegals, Trump or Obama. Google AI told you the term illegal is offensive. Of course. Of course. Radical who crucified a pastor in his own home. Yes. Disappeared from the news cycle quickly. Radical Zionist, but I don't know. Ryan, I'm glad you made it out. Stockholm Syndrome. Yes, Stockholm Syndrome was talked about with regard to Patty Hearst. What is that? Nikita Khrushchev warned us about communism in the colleges. Hey, Ryan, I know you're late, but it's interesting that you mentioned that, because we opened with Khrushchev, and then a little more Khrushchev. Yeah, he did. He warned us about it. He did. Glad you made it out, Ryan. I am. I knew some Antifa folk. not known for their brains or their sanity. Yeah, they're terrible people across the board. This is the bottom line here, people. First shots are being fired right now. These attacks against ICE are going to ramp up because these people have chosen a side. Again, when the borders were left open, they were flooded with single military age males. Why? We all know why. It's about to become evident why. They're going to be the ones. They're going to be the ones to throw the first shots out. The administration is going to hit back harder, particularly with Tom Homan running the program. He is not to be trifled with. They're going to come down hard. And the first thing we're going to hear about is proof that it was fascism. Proof that he's been a fascist all along. These guys are mostly peaceful. Who's going to be telling us that? Oh, wait. The press is our chief ideological weapon. This is all calculated, people. I say all that to say this. We cannot give in to the pressure to stifle what needs to be done. We finally had a leader courageous enough, and look, man, we can get off into we can and should, and I'm probably going to wind up spending a whole freaking hour devoted to this next Sunday, depending on how these hearings go. I'm not going to get sidetracked with this stuff right now. I'm not. You guys know me well enough to know that I haven't sold my soul for a red hat. We need to take a look at what needs to be done here. If we wish for American civilization, if we wish for American principles, if we wish for the ideals of the West to persevere, then we got to be willing to do some ugly things. We got to be willing to do some very, very, very ugly things right now. We have to be able to look at some unpleasant realities. That every last illegal immigrant in the United States needs to be forcibly removed. Most Ricky Tick. Get them out, get them gone. That we do need to harden up and start taking a look at our vulnerabilities, and we need to start thinking in terms of fifth generation warfare. That we do need to start thinking in terms of counterinsurgency. Why? Because all of those Chinese illegals that flooded across the border during those years, they have been schooled in taking us apart. The American public is not ready. Not by a damn sight. And the ones who thump their chest about their $2,000 ARs with the $1,500 optics, and yeah, I'm a badass, but can't run up a flight of stairs without getting winded, they are least ready of all. In fact, if anything, they're going to be counterproductive. But at the end of the day, these people want us jailed or dead. The ones who are American citizens want us jailed. The ones who are coming from outside want us dead. And the beauty of it is the ones who are inside that are protecting those that are coming from the outside, they want them dead too. Stalin and the useful idiots thing. We are up against it, folks. The stakes are very high. The hour is very late. I'm just hitting my stride, getting back here and doing these sermons. These are things that needed to be addressed, and we'll get into it in more detail, and we'll get into more specificity as the weeks roll on. But I wanted to touch on these bullet points, the things that we have to take into consideration. The fact that we are on the precipice of having two large cities in the United States, including the biggest and most important city in the United States, about to have the mayor's office occupied by Marxist Muslims. This is the long game versus the short game. We have been short-sighted in our thinking, and the repercussions are going to shake out over a very, very long time. If we are to turn the tide, it's got to be now. And it's got to be now, and it's got to be hard, and it's got to be ugly. If you don't have the stomach for it, I'll thank you in advance just to get out of the way. But don't try to engage me in conversation. Don't try to have the discussion with me. You've already made up your mind, and so have I. So let's not kid ourselves. What's at stake here is nothing less than us continuing to exist. What do you mean, us? You talking about America, Bart? Yes. You talking about white European blood? Yes. You talking about Western civilization? Yes. You talking about Christianity? Yes. Our continued existence on the face of this planet depends on what we choose to do within the span of the next 2 generations, with the notable exception of the faith, because I've read the book and we win. Spoiler alert. But there is nothing in there there is nothing in there that is remotely reassuring that it's not going to have to get 9 shades of ugly before we get there. And I got news for a lot of evangelicals here in the United States. US doesn't really figure that heavily into scripture. We weren't around then, remember? But what we choose to do here has repercussions and ramifications that stretch outside the borders of the United States. What people of our mindset, what people of our skin, what people of our blood and our faith choose to do here will reflect on events and the continued existence of civilization around the world going forward. Because if America falls, that's it for the West. The faith has been through worse. The faith has been through pogroms, has been through persecutions, and again is authored by the big boss who has the final say. The faith will take care of itself. The civilization that carries that faith on its shield, that's what's at stake here. And if we don't realize that, again, most Ricky Tick, the implications are going to be earth-shattering going forward. We need to suck it up now and take that hit and come out swinging. If we fail to do so, we deserve every last thing that follows. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Going to close with a prayer real quick. Again, guys, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys just showing up. First one back in a minute. You know, I mean, I had the one a couple of weeks ago, but it's like trying to get back at it with some regularity now. And now that I do have somewhat of a regular schedule, you know, and that I'm here, Charlie's place, all the potted plants in the background. I'll see what I can do about the backdrop between now and next week. But I appreciate y'all being here, man. I appreciate it. I really do. Thanks for coming out. If you guys want to drop something, let me close with a prayer real quick. Lord God, I give you thanks. I give you thanks for being allowed to live in such a time. It's magnificent, man. Really is. To be alive when so many things are in flux and so many things are in motion and so much is at stake, and your children are called to do great things for the faith. I thank you for letting me live through such a time. Thank you for the gifts that you've given me to articulate and communicate with folks, to touch hearts, to open minds, and hopefully bring some of your children home. I realize you're putting your army together and the clock is ticking, Lord. I thank you for every breath. I thank you for every blessing, and I thank you for every adversity. As iron sharpens iron, so one brother sharpens another. Thank you for the brothers you put in my path to help me to stay sharp, and hopefully I can return that courtesy and that respect to them. I give you thanks for everything. I ask you to keep your protective hand around us and your guiding hand before us moving forward into the fray, Lord, not to aggrandize ourselves for the glory of the kingdom. Deus vult omnia ad regnum, all things for the kingdom, Lord. Pray in the mighty name of Jesus, the risen Christ, whom I ever serve. Amen. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. You want to kick down something, you guys already know. I got the collection plate. In fact, let me just switch that out. If anybody's running, you see exactly where this is my Venmo and my Cash App and all that good stuff. So anyway, just throw me something. I'm on everything except Facebook Pay right now. I don't think I'm on Facebook Pay right now. It's the only thing I'm not on. But everything else, man, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, yada, yada, yada. You guys want to kick something down? It's totally cool. Appreciate it. If you can't, I totally get that too. Nothing wrong with that. We are still in economically uncertain times, and that's totally all right. Go ahead and start fading the outro music here if I can get this damn thing to cooperate. There we go. Cover A Fortunate Son by Clutch, the best cover of that song ever. And if you disagree, well, you're entitled to be wrong. If you can't kick down, man, here's what you can do. You can share the message on your own social media platform. If you got a Facebook page or a Twitter feed or something, share the sermon with a friend. Say, hey, man, there's this fat, toothless guy, fat, crippled crane operator with some opinions. He gets on a rants and raves for a couple hours every Sunday. Give him a hand, man. Just kind of spread the word a little bit. But here's what you can do, not just for me, but for yourselves, man. This is the most important bit. Stone, if you're still here, what do we tell them? Live the three, baby. Hashtag live the three. Live the three. What the hell are you talking about? Talking about the three prime directives, people. On Planet Bart, these are rules to live by. Rule number one, you've got to be signal in a world full of noise. The noise is the distractions. The noise is the obfuscations. That's my college word. I got like 3 of those. The noise is the distractions and the lies and the word games. Signal is the truth. And you've got to be that signal that punches through the noise. You got to be light in a world full of darkness. What's that all about? Well, they'll try to bury you in the darkness. Again, just like the noise, they'll try to bury you in it. They'll demoralize you. They'll dehumanize you. They'll emasculate you with that darkness, make you think there's nothing out there to be but the darkness. You got to be that light. You got to carry that light. You got to punch that light through to the other darkness, just like you're punching the signal through the noise, which leads me to my third rule, the iron rule, talking about you've got to be strength in a world full of weakness. And I don't mean just this kind of strength is important, but it's not just here. It's got to be here. It's got to be here, and it's got to be here. Why? Because without strength, none of the rest of it matters. Do you understand? Without strength, you're not going to have the punch to get that light through to the other side of the darkness, nor are you going to have the tenacity to carry that light all the distance and all the time that it's going to take to break through that fog, man. You're not going to have the punch to get that signal through the noise. You're not going to have the courage to speak truth in a world full of lies. It's strength above everything else. Don't want to get all Bruce Lee on you, but you guys remember the line from Enter the Dragon. You guys remember, man. Who knows what beauty has died off the face of this earth for want of the strength to survive. So without strength, none of the rest of it matters, guys. Get it together. Not just here, but here, and here. Carry that strength with you everywhere you go. And when you hit those knees at night, and you hit your knees at night, pray for strength, pray for clarity and discernment. Because no matter how strong you are, Father Elias is always out there trying to cloud your judgment, trying to make it not work for you. You got to have the clarity and discernment to know when you're on the right track. So no matter what you're up against in this world, man, listen, I promise you, my word, on God, as the kids say, you put your ass under some iron and your face in some scripture, your world's going to be a better place. I promise you. I am the Reverend, and that is some gospel. Put your ass under some iron and your face in some scripture. Your life is going to be a better place. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Y'all honor me by being here, man. I love each and every one of y'all. God bless you, man. Take good care of yourselves. And again, do take care of each other, man. Because we're all we got. Boss man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. We'll see you next Sunday. God bless, man. Take care. Peace.